Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Gabby Hour. And for those keeping count, this is episode 3 of season 2. And it finally feels like fall. When fall is upon us, that means football season is upon us. And there's no better way to introduce our next guest than really putting an emphasis on that football season, because this guest knows a thing or two about that as a sideline reporter for one of the biggest college programs in the nation for football. So without further ado, let's give this guest a warm welcome to Gabby Hour.
They fought the law, and the law won.
Zora, welcome to the show. I always start at the beginning of the show, like introducing the guests, how I met them, and things like that. And we have a similar path to our news journey or news broadcasting journey. We both started at Channel 9 and we connected from our mutual friend, shout out Tree. So,
Yeah.
but to get things started, before you were in the news and TV and sports broadcasting, you actually found your love on the court playing college
Mhm.
basketball at Elon. I want to hear a little bit about that and your experience there.
Oh man, yeah. Elon means so much to me, both personally, it's where I met my husband, and professionally. Like the experience that I gained there, whether it was like at the anchor desk, whether it was doing analyst work as a volleyball commentator. I could never call basketball because I was playing it, right? That would be the one thing. Being a host at the football games, and then behind the scenes too. Like in order to be on camera, Elon made sure that you knew what a producer did, what a director did, what a TD did, what a camera operator did, all those different things. And so I owe so much to Elon University and the growth that I had there with technical skills, yes, but just as a human. That culture there and that curriculum empowered us to just go for our dreams. And that's what I try to do every day.
And obviously, you're in sports right now, but if I remember correctly, you loved weather. You were doing the meteorologist stuff while you were at Elon. And can you talk a little bit about why it's so important to be well-rounded news, weather, and using those tools now?
Yeah, I always just love telling stories and talking to people and learning about people, like what's their why, what's their motivation, and then having a way to relay that information to somebody else. And sports was always the goal, but as we both know, sports broadcasting is really hard to get into. It's not like you can go online and find a job opening and apply for it, right? I mean, it's like this like unknown world. I mean, every job has different hiring managers, all the things. And so news was actually my avenue to get into TV. And so I was trying to get into sports all through my college career, and we're in your senior year, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And news jobs is what Elon, kind of had set up in terms of helping us navigate. They helped us, how do you apply? Where do you look? All the things. And so it was actually one of my internships in Raleigh. I interned at the CBS station in Raleigh. The news director there knew that I was graduating, knew I needed a job. And so she reached out to the news director in Greenville, North Carolina, and said, I have a graduating senior. And I think that's like the baseline of my entire career is someone who saw me, who knew that someone might be able to like, use me as on-air talent. It's all networking. I mean, I've had a number of jobs in the industry, and I'm talking TV as a whole, and I have not applied to any of them. And I bring that up to people because it really is, yes, it's who you know, but it's the relationships you have in place, and it's people going to bat for you and seeing something in you even when you don't see it. So yeah, all my jobs have just kind of been word of mouth, which is wild.
And it's great too. You've had all this sports success, but it definitely did start in news. And when I got to Channel 9, I was like, oh, like, I want to do sports, I want to do all this. And I heard the name Zora Stephenson almost immediately. And I, of course, went in the archives. I'm like, who is this? And besides being a phenom in the sports industry, you did a lot of great news specials and
Mhm.
stories. And after Greenville, you went to Denver, got a couple
Yeah.
more awards there too in the news
Mhm.
category. How are things there, and why did you decide to go from news to news at that time?
That's a great question because when my time was almost up in Greenville, I was trying to get a sports job. And I had been talking to folks. My parents live in Raleigh, so I really wanted to come to Raleigh. And I was talking to some of the stations here, and I remember out of the blue, I get an email from Denver. And I was like, what is going on? And I'm always the person like, you can't turn down a job you don't have. So I went through the interview process, and it just felt like that was the right next step for me. And I even kind of turned down a sports opportunity in a triangle to go to Denver, but Denver is a huge market. And in news, like even if you are the news reporter, sometimes sports is news. And so I knew I could still cover sports if I went out there. And I knew I wasn't finished in news just yet. Like news taught me how to tell a story, how to manage my time, how to write, how to deliver on air, clear and concise, and in different formats. Some days it's just a quick live shot where you're thrown on the scene. You don't have the background information, but all you can do is talk about what you see. That is a direct parallel to an injury report in a football game, right? You don't know exactly what body part. You're not a doctor, so you can't speculate. All you can talk about is what you see on the scene. What I saw on the scene, aka the football field, is that somebody went down. They needed help getting to the bench. They went into the tent. They came out of the tent with ice on their knee, and now they have yet to return. That would be an injury report. Whereas, like a live shot for a news scene, you get, you're on the scene. I'm trying to think of something that would happen. Okay, a garbage truck like spilled a bunch of things and the road is closed down, right? Like, I don't have all the details, but I arrive on the scene and I know that we're at A and B Street and it's shut down. No traffic is being let through. And this is all because there's debris that is sprawled out all on the road. And one extra nugget, I know you all can't tell, but it smells awful here. You know what I mean? So it's just it's all the same skill sets. And I really like the craft of it all is what I fell in love with. And I feel like if you can do it for politics or education, you could do it for sports as well. So yeah, I my time in news was so transformative. I wouldn't change it for anything. And specifically my time in Denver. The storytellers like out there in Denver are the best of the best, like in the country. I travel a lot, and so I watch local news in every market. And I still have not found an area that has better local news than Denver, Colorado.
That is awesome. And I always love how you tie you really do value your time in news and you tie it to sports. I remember I called you frantically 2 days before I was color commentating my first ECU hoops game. I was like, oh my God, like this is new to me. And I remember you were like, well, have you done a live shot before? Obviously, yes, you have. So what do you do when you're there? You
Yeah.
obviously report on what you're seeing, what you hear. You want to make sure the viewer is getting as much as they can from the comfort of their home, and that's
Yeah.
what you do, and you get all those tools, and that's I love how you always tie it together. So the Zora Stephenson we see right now would not be the same without news. I think that's safe to say,
100%.
which
Yeah.
is awesome. So, but you had a great time, of course, in news. Stellar season there on after with now the Milwaukee Bucks, and take me back to when you
Mm.
found out about that opportunity.
Oh my goodness. Well, my first news director in Greenville was Stephanie Schultz. And Greenville is a starter market where a lot of us get our first jobs. And so people are usually trying to think about the next thing. And I'll never forget, she said, Zora, you will know when it's time to go to something different because she had mentored so many different people through that process. Basically, she was saying, like, don't rush the process. And so I bring that up to say, I was in Denver and I was really present in terms of like just being good at the job that I had. And I was doing color commentating on the side for Metro State University, which is a Division II school in Denver, Colorado. And on my off days, I would go and shoot stuff at the University of Colorado Boulder. Like I was working towards it on the side, but a full-time role with an NBA team was not something I envisioned in the way that it happened. I mean, we had just bought a house in Denver. We really liked it there. And I sent my stuff in to the Bucks, and I'll never forget, my agent called and said, "Hey, they want to bring you in for an interview." Again, didn't even think anything of it. I was like, never been in Milwaukee before. I'm gonna go for an interview and just see what happens. Had nothing to lose. I go for the interview, and it just the people that I talked to, it felt right. And when I tell you they put me through the gauntlet of an interview process, I had to talk to the president of the team. I had to talk to the general manager. I had to talk to Mike Budenholzer was the head coach at the time. I had to talk to
Oh
him.
my
Like
gosh.
I had to talk to all these different people. And it was so fun. Like, and I think I went in there with no pressure too, because I was like, what is the chances I'm gonna even get this job? And to be able to go on an interview and talk hoops, like they were asking me about my hoops knowledge. And I was like, I mean, I could talk about that all day and my love for the game and what it's done for me. And So I had like a fun time on the interview, and it ended up being really long. And they called me back for a second one. Next thing I know, they're like, "Hey, you have the job." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And kudos to my news director, Brian Gregory in Denver. I don't even think I've ever talked about this, but he gave me the okay to go do it and to go chase my dreams. Joan Barrett was the GM in Denver as well. Like, I've just had so many people along the way that have helped me. Like, I mean, yes, like preparation met opportunity, but it wouldn't have happened if all these things in place didn't continue to move around me. And I moved to Milwaukee, and that job as the team sideline reporter changed the trajectory of my career. Whether it was the visibility because the team is really, really good and has arguably the best player in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Um, it was a small market, so like the access to the team, like the way that they brought me in, it was like very family oriented. I'll never forget my first year there. It's Christmas. The team had a game in Philly, and the GM of the team got an extra plane so that every staff member could bring at least one family member. You know what I mean? It was just like an atmosphere that I had never been around before. And I got to talk about basketball today. I went from, talking about really serious, sad things to talking about hoops. I was like in all of my glory. I thought like at that time, like I did a lot of media when I first got there. And it was literally the headlines were like Zora Stephenson gets her dream job because like that was the dream to just like be around basketball again. So it changed everything. And then as the seasons went on there, I got more and more opportunities, right? Like I got to do some play-by-play. I got to do some long-form storytelling. And then like I would do freelancing for some networks. And 4 years into my time with the Bucks, NBC called, and then that was the next trajectory. And always wanted to work at a national network, and here I am doing it. So it's my dreams are constantly changing, and in the process of that, I'm really trying to be present where I am and just be really good at the job I have.
And Zora, you grazed over it, did a little play-by-play. You were the first female play-by-play broadcaster in a Bucks game. We'll get into the
Right.
NBC stuff, which is incredible at the moment, but that Bucks game, when you were the first female play-by-play broadcaster, it was publicized everywhere. I remember it was in 2021. I remember this. I was like, who is this? And I remember tuning into the game. You were phenomenal. And I had the NBA League Pass, so I wasn't even watching a national broadcast. So
Yeah,
can
thank
you take
you.
me back to that game? The surround sound too. Like, what were your family members saying and things like that? Did it feel full circle at the moment?
100%. So much went into that one singular game. I mean, it was like basically a year of prep when everything shut down in March of 2020. I was blessed enough to still have my job with the Bucks, but nothing was really going on. And so I went to like, how can I better myself? How can I get better? There's nothing I can really go cover. And I wanted to try play by play, but I was always very nervous. I didn't like how I sounded. I couldn't envision myself in that role, but this was the time to do it. And so I would pull up old NBA games and I'd put them on mute and I would just try to call them. And it sounded awful. And at the time, this was all happening in conjunction with the fact that the Bucks' longtime play-by-play was deciding that he was going to retire at the end of the season. And he really said, like, I think you can do this job. I had only called the game once before, and it was because somebody got sick. And it was last minute, and I only had like 3 hours to prep. So up until this point, I had never called a game before as somebody saying, like, hiring me to do it. And I have two people, Jim Paschke, who was a play-by-play for the Bucks, and then LaChina Robinson, who both really pushed me to try play-by-play. And the Bucks were like, well, let's get her some training. So they like hired a coach that was working with me. I would record my sideline hits during that 2020, 2021 season. I'd record my sideline hits, and then I would be calling a mock game on the side that they would record and review back. And it was just this whole like operation behind the scenes. And then I got, I guess, halfway good enough. And Jim Paschke was like, I will take a game off so that Zora can get a real rep. I mean, you want to talk about an advocate. He's in his last season doing a job he's done for 3 decades. And he's like, I'll take a game off so that Zora can do the job. And it was amazing. There was so much hype around that night. And I mean, like even in the preparation, I don't even think I realized I was going to be the first woman to do this job for the Milwaukee Bucks. Like I was just trying to be great at an opportunity that I had, and really it was kind of an interview process for me. And ended up doing the game. It went well, and I didn't get, it's what's wild is I didn't get the Bucks full-time job. I didn't end up getting it. But that whole process opened up so much more for me. It opened up NBC. It opened up, I was then calling games to the New York Liberty, the WNBA team. Like it even opened up things as a sideline reporter because people now knew that I had another skill. I mean, it just really transformed so much of my career. And now, yeah, I'm still like don't always like how I sound when I'm in the play-by-play seat, but I also don't always like how I sound as a reporter either, right? I'm always striving to be better, but that story, and that like I mean Milwaukee, like you want to talk about life-changing. Like yes, the job was, but that whole story of like how a franchise, an NBA franchise, right? Like this is not a TV network. An NBA franchise put resources together to help me learn a skill. And then I learned that skill, and I didn't even end up doing that skill for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I did the one game and I filled in for the next couple seasons, but like they really taught me how to be a play-by-play broadcaster. And now I'm not the play-by-play broadcaster there. I'm doing it elsewhere. I mean, that is like the ultimate gift. Yeah, so I'm just really grateful. There's been just so many people that have poured into me, and that's why like whenever I can, I just try to help as many people as I can because it makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah, you certainly secondhand helped me over the phone, so that was awesome. But yeah, and it's definitely opened a ton of opportunities and avenues. You mentioned before New York Liberty, you're doing that. You also were a part of the all-female broadcast for the Celtics. That I,
Yes.
of course, have on NBA League Pass, watching that every night. So when I heard you were on it, I told my parents, I was like, "Oh my God, I know her!" Like it was recent. It was, I think it was like last
Yeah,
year or the year and a
last
half
two, like
ago.
not this past season, but it's wild. Like 2021. I'd never called an NBA game before, and I get my opportunity with the Bucks, who end up being the world champions that season. And now we fast forward 4 years later, I've now called games for three different franchises: the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and then this last season, I filled in a couple times for the Portland Trail Blazers. So it's just,
And that's
yeah, it's a blessing.
crazy.
It's
Oh
so
my
wild.
gosh.
It's
So, how
yeah.
has that helped? So, the NBA, obviously, it's different, right, than WNBA, but how is the WNBA play by play? And also, you could listen, college hoops, you're doing Big Ten, you did the
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark games. How did those kind of help as well with their different styles of play? So, how
100%.
does that
Yeah.
help?
Well, the NBA is just so fast and there's so many points being put up. There's not a lot of like wiggle room um to storytell. It's just a different cadence, right? Like you've got to be really on your toes for an NBA game. You don't have a lot of time to process that somebody just had a monster dunk before you put a caption on it. So the pace is crazy. Whereas in college, you have to have more material because there's more dead space, if you will, because there's just not as many points scored. The W, I think, is the happy medium of that. The pace of the game is crazy, but there are so many stories and like who these women are. Like you'd be doing a disservice to the fans if you didn't introduce some of those backgrounds. I mean, anytime I get to call women's basketball, whether it's college or the W, like that's home. That's my happy place. That is, and I am like I get more nervous for those games than I do NBA games because I feel this huge sense of responsibility to keep the game moving forward and know I can't do it on the court. Like that's just not the purpose that I was given. But the avenue that I move the game forward is by my storytelling and by putting a caption on a great play or introducing you to a new athlete and their why or whatever and their backstory. So yeah, women's college basketball and WNBA, I like get really giddy for those games. That is the ultimate for me. So it's wild how much has happened since 2021 when I called my very first.
Your Swiss Army knife, aside from basketball, football is now your baby with NBC having you on the team. You are the sideline reporter for Notre Dame football, which is the granddaddy of them all, you can argue. How special is that to be on the front lines of an organization like that?
Notre Dame is an experience. It's not a place, it's not a team, it's an experience. And it's hard to articulate all that's behind it without going to Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend and really feeling it all. It's one of my favorite assignments. Like you talked about, I mean, I do basketball, but I also do gymnastics and I've done wrestling and football. Like Notre Dame is at the top of that for me, just because of the people, right? And it's really unique in this business to be able to go to the same like school or cover the same team so frequently. And I think I like it because it's a little bit similar to kind of what I was doing with the Bucks. What's unique about Notre Dame is like we're a national network, so like we're going there all the time, but we have to cover the game, the game, right? Like you're unbiased, but um, yeah, what a privilege to be able to be, one of the voices on that broadcast. And yeah, like, I mean, I started when Marcus Freeman started. So I think that's super cool, right? That we're, in a much different level. He started his football career in terms of being a head coach, when I started.
That's awesome. And listen, doing any sport last year, I think, was a true indicator of you doing any sport. You were at the Olympics as an NBC correspondent. You were sideline with hoops, of course. That's obviously what feels like home base a bit. But gymnastics, you were interviewing people like Simone Biles, that whole
Oh my
team. And
goodness.
how
Yeah.
crazy was that? But all in all, you were doing this while you were pregnant with twins. So
Mhm.
how crazy was all of this?
Yeah, well, the Olympics was amazing. And also personally, because I was supposed to go to Tokyo in 2021. That was also the same time that the Bucks won the championship. So, like, I hosted the parade. I was supposed to get on a plane to Tokyo 24 hours later, and I got COVID in somewhere in between there and couldn't go. And so I've had this affirmation that I would make it to Paris. Like for 2 years, I literally wrote it down in a journal every day, like I will be in Paris. So for me to just touch ground across the pond was an accomplishment in itself. And then to get an assignment like gymnastics was crazy. Yeah. And kudos to NBC. They had put me on a couple gymnastics events the last few years so I could start to get my feet wet. But like the way we cover gymnastics in the States changes completely, like the access of it when you get to the Olympics. You can't just walk up to the athletes anymore. So there was a lot of parameters around it. It was different. But like I had like a court side seat to greatness every single day when those gymnasts took the podium. My goodness, like what they're able to do with their bodies is nuts. And yeah, I just wanted to help spread, the amazingness of it all. Yeah, that was an assignment that like I don't know how I got it, and I hope I did it justice. That's what I hope.
Full experience, great summer in Paris, and you come home, you have twins. Now this is a new ball game, right?
Yeah.
How have things been going there?
Yeah, it's, Gabby, you're a twin.
That's right. That's why I was so excited when I heard. I was like, "Oh, I can't. You have any questions?"
Yeah, I say it's wild and wonderful. I'm the type of person that pre-motherhood I would sleep like, 8, 9 hours a night. That is not a thing anymore, and I have to function on way less sleep. But they are amazing. I'm obsessed with them. I was like in a healthy way, of course, but yeah, I and my husband and I look at them, we're like, we can't believe we created these two humans. They're the best little kids ever, and I'm biased and I don't care. And now I'm at a really, transformative part in my life where I'm going back to work. So I've, been off for the last 4 to 5 months, and so football season starting, and that's when I'm going back to work. And so that it's a transition. Like for what I do, like I'm gone 3 or 4 days a week, right? And now I have two infants at home, and how do we do that? But just like the athletes I cover, like teamwork, right? I've got the best husband in the world who's the best partner and teammate. Um, we've got great family around and just like a good support system in place. So we're just gonna tackle it like we do everything else and take it one day at a time and try to figure it out. But yeah, my cousin, I just actually went on my first work trip, and my cousin texted me and was kind of like pumping me up, and he said, Sora, like no pressure, just more love in your life. And that like my husband and I looked at him and said, that's like a word. That should be in a sermon. Because yeah, how blessed am I to have all this love in my life as I continue to go and work. So yeah, a lot going on, and it's like wild to think about, but I take it one task at a time. Like right now I'm here present with you, and I'm happy to be doing this podcast.
That's gonna be awesome when your husband sends videos back and it's like, "Oh, they're tuned in. She's on the
Yeah.
TV." That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now, aside from the challenges, there is a ton of excitement, as we're saying. Is there anything specific you're looking forward to this season overall, whether it's basketball later on or even, Notre Dame football right around the corner?
Ooh, well, as an athlete, like I'm excited about the process to get back into it. and trying to, just get back in a groove. What I'm really excited though is the NBA is coming to NBC, which is huge, or coming back to NBC, I should say. And so that feels like a coming home of sorts. I'll have some NBA games as a sideline reporter and to get back to the league that really started this run in sports for me, I think is exciting. Yeah, football's first. And I think that's a great starting point because being a reporter on college football, like it's so all encompassing. Like, I mean, the games are on Saturdays. I don't have a game till next Friday. And the reason, like, I was on a meeting about storylines for next week today, so it's a lot. And so
It's
I'm
back.
excited. Yeah, I'm back and I'm excited to kind of continue with that process and then whatever assignments come after it. So a lot of exciting things ahead. But big thing for me is just to like stay present, right? And focus on whatever's happens to be next.
So exciting, Zora, and we're rooting for you, and we're so excited to see everything that unfolds for you this season. Thank you so much for being on the show. Her information will be in the details. Please don't miss her. You won't miss her. You'll have no choice. She's gonna be on your TV screens every Saturday and probably like every other day in the winter. So stay tuned for Zora Stephenson and everything that she has. Thank you so much, Zora.
Thanks for having me.